Hello and welcome to Gazette discussion for 9 July 2021. My name is Harsh Singh and in this discussion we will cover many interesting articles. The first article that we will cover is the featured news for today, that is on integrated theatre command. Now, this is an important article considering India's defense system, the present structure and what has been proposed in the form of theaterization. Why it is the need of the hour and what are the challenges associated with it. This will be contained in a separate video, and we will have another video which will talk about all the rest of the articles. The second video will contain this day in history about John A. Wheeler, an important and contemporary scientist of Albert Einstein. Then we have three important update articles, news snapshots for you. The first one is an important agricultural outlook report by OECD-FAO, and it talks about the 10-year future forecast of the agricultural scenario in the world. The second one is about a review of global counter-terrorism strategy. This is an association of important countries that try to regulate terrorism around the world. The third one is the water developments, the water issues between the states of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. The image of the day relates to dead mussels along the coast of Canada. And after that, we have covered four important terms for you. The first one is Department of Public Enterprise. We will see what the update is. And then we have India-EU agricultural meet, which has some repercussions, developments for Indian agriculture. Then we have an important term, Pegasus, if you have heard this. And then HPV, human papillomavirus testing. New updates about it. Two editorials that we have covered today are one on Indian pharmaceutical companies and China's APIs. And then we have one on the climate crisis and the holistic approach needed by India. Important articles, both of them. And the case study of the day is about Odisha, which has freed as many as 4,000 villages from child marriages. We will see how it has done this during this lockdown period. Let's start the discussion. This day in history is about John Wheeler. Now, John Wheeler was born on 9 July 1911. Who was he? He was an important scientist in the field of black hole studies and nuclear fission reaction. He was also Albert Einstein's and Niels Bohr's contemporary. He is not as much known as these people were, but he had his own important contributions in the field of general relativity, making of hydrogen bombs, and black hole, right? So Niels Bohr and Albert Einstein, along with John Wheeler. New snapshot. The first snapshot is an important snapshot in terms of agricultural outlook. Now, this flagship report is released by OECD-FAO. Now, FAO is a different body under United Nations, and OECD is Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. This is an organization of the highly developed countries around the world. What do they do? Both the organizations together create this agricultural outlook report, which talks about the future of agriculture for 10 years, right? They have released this report for the next 10 years, forecasting how the agricultural scenario will be in the future. Also, they have mentioned what are the scenarios considering the present state, right? Not considering the contingencies, the sudden changes. They are talking about how we can extrapolate and how things will be in the future. So let us see how they will be in the future 10 years. Now, first of all, they say that hunger eradication will be a challenge. One of the major reasons for this is the present corona crisis. Because of this, hunger will under Sustainable Development Goal 2 will remain a challenge for future, especially for the low-income countries, right? So for low-income countries, it is a challenge. However, for middle-income countries, there will be a different level of demand, and that will be a good demand. Food intake will be high. Secondly, they mention that in middle income countries, there will be change in preference and they will definitely need more protein diet. Why? Because of increasing income levels, right? So there will be stronger demand. How about high income countries? There will be a stagnation in demand. Why? Because of less population rise and because they have already flourished. Third, global food crop production. Now, global crop production is definitely going to increase because there will be improve in yields, right? Now, improve in yields has got many components. It can happen because of yield improvement, that means improved in productivity, then increase of cropping intensity. What is cropping intensity? If the same area is cultivated once in a year, it is called as cropping intensity 1, and if it is cultivated twice, Rabi and Kharif, it is called as 2. So 7% of increase of this yield will be because of increasing cropping intensity, and only 6% of increase will be because of expansion of area under cultivation. This simply means that most of the yield will be improved because of better productivity in future. So agriculture will have better productivity in future. Also because the agriculture area is definitely going to reduce in future because of urbanization, because of increase in service and manufacturing capacities, efficiency will increase. Very direct correlation here. Yeah, so we can see this. Fourth, livestock and fish production. Now, we yesterday studied about fish production and innovative ways of fish production, right? So fish production will definitely improve in times to come, also because it provides increased nutrition in terms of protein. Next, carbon intensity. Now, carbon intensity will definitely decrease with time because people's awareness will lead them to less greenhouse gas emissions with respect to their production. However, the net increase in carbon intensity will be there. Net increase will be there. However, as a proportion of the production, it will definitely decrease, right? Then food trade. Now, food trade is definitely going to increase, especially in resource constrained countries. Example, desertified countries in the Africa region, right, which are important. They will definitely keep on trading. I had read at certain place that 10% decrease in the supply of food grains can lead to as much as 50% increase in the prices. 10% decrease in the supply can lead to as much as 50% increase in the prices in the international market. So this is the kind of the trade we are talking of, and this is definitely going to exacerbate in future. That means this is certainly going to deteriorate the situation in future, right? What about the food prices? Because we have increased production, increased productivity, the prices will almost remain same. In fact, declining real prices will also lead to less income for the farmers. So this is the food agriculture forecast for the coming 10 years. Now, if you know the forecast, you don't only need to present them while a question about agriculture production and agriculture outlook is being asked. This can be used in economy as well, right? So note down these important points, very good important parameters. See, these are points which you will not be able to bring about suddenly in the answers. You can only do if you revise them a few times. So note them down and revise them, right? Just note down the important points. The fodder material, the details will automatically come to you. You will not need to explain everything that I'm explaining. Explanation is only meant for you to understand things. Now, second snapshot is on review of global counter-terrorism strategy, GCTS. Now, this is an organization which was formed in 2006, right? The countries in these organizations, they wanted to ensure that terrorism be contained, right? And therefore, they formed this organization. They meet every 2 years, and this was their seventh meet, right? So the main idea is that the spread of terrorism must be contained, right? They must prevent and combat terrorism. Along with that, they must build capacities in the countries to contain terrorism, and respect for human rights and rule of law must be maintained, right? So this is the main agenda of the countries in this global counter-terrorism strategy, right? So what is the present context of this meeting? The meeting was organized and India raised certain specific issues. For example, definition of terrorism has not been still universalized and finalized. It is not that the definition of terrorism has an issue. Terrorism definition right now contains that an individual or people who are acting against the government or indulge in homicide, so they can be designated as terrorists. The definition is standard, it is not an issue, but there are certain clauses to which certain countries have objected. For example, America wants to exclude a clause in which the offense has been committed by armed forces. It specifically mentions the reference is to offenses committed in Afghanistan and Iraq, right? These wars. So during peace times, when the forces of America conducted offenses in these regions, these could also be designated as terrorist activities, right? Under this definition, America wants these excluded, right? Then we have other countries also objecting to it, right? So we will come to that news right now, right? India also mentions, first one was that definition of terrorism must be finalized as soon as possible, so that we prosecute and we bring to justice those people who have acted against the human rights. Also, the second update about this is that the report talks of emerging threats to terrorism. For example, racially, ethnically motivated violent extremism, violent nationalism, right-wing extremism. And in this form, the actual terrorism which is committed, which is that gets disguised. So India says that these new terms should not disguise the actual terms of the threat of terrorism, right? So these new terms should not disguise the actual terrorism which is committed. So this is what is the update, right? India also speaks that there's a religious phobias in matters of terrorism, right? But India has said that in this report, the listing of the religious phobia has been selective. For example, attack against communities like Hindus, Sikh, and Buddhists has not been mentioned. Has not been mentioned. So this is another update in the article. And India also mentioned that misuse of internet and social media, right? So these are new kind of players to increase the terrorism around the world. It also mentions that new payment methods have come up because of which terrorism is getting propagated. For example, blockchain technology. For example, crowdfunding platforms, right? ISS does crowdfunding as well through certain means, payment wallets, and government is not able to intercede, government is not able to overcome these new measures of payments for the terrorist activities. Also, we have seen that the new technology like drone, 3D printing, artificial intelligence has been used lately for committing terrorist activities. So this is the update about this new meeting of the nations, right? India's effort previously also has been acknowledged. For example, India also participated in the Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism, right? India proposed this treaty, right, in which it also proposed of prosecution and extradition of terrorists. What is extradition? Extradition means a terrorist committing a terror act at certain place and then going abroad. The country will ask the terrorist to come back through the diplomatic channels, and they will prosecute the terrorist even if residing in a different country in our own nation, if they have committed the crime in our own nation, right? So this is it. America is opposing the definition. Organization of Islamic countries and Latin America countries are also opposing this. So why are Organization of Islamic countries opposing this? Now, they are opposing that if a national liberation movement is happening at a place, the other countries say that it could be considered as terrorist act if they are acting against the government. But these countries say, no, 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 do not include national liberation movements as terrorist movements. Why? Because they actually favor Palestinian movement against Israel, right? So these are the agenda because of which India's attempt to define terrorism is not getting successful, right? However, India's stand must be clear to all of us. And these issues that India has mentioned, they're also global issues, right? These 5-6 of them, which we just mentioned. So do remember them, and then you got to bring it out whenever asked in discussions. The third snapshot for today is about the water war between Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, right? Now, India has got many riparian states. There are many rivers flowing in India, and because of the federal nature of polity, we have division of states. If water flows from one state to the other, both the states have to divide the water resource, not only for their potable needs, that means whatever water needs for drinking needs, but also for agriculture purpose, industrial purposes, also for hydel power generation. So all of them have to be divided between both the states. If at all there is a dispute, then we have Article 262, which talks of the formation of the interjection by the Interstate River Water Dispute Act, right? So this act will enable the dispute resolution mechanism, right? Also, the states can ask the center to participate in the resolution. So the ideal way that dispute is resolved is the formation of tribunal to award the water resources to both the states or multiple states, and after that a formation of board to see the overseeing of the tribunal award. So board will always exist, it will oversee how it is being executed, and tribunal is the one which will award the water division, right? So this is how this is addressed. So what is the issue between Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, right? Now, allegations by Andhra Pradesh is that Telangana is utilizing water in the form of hydropower generation at certain places, right, in the Krishna River. Also, this water, after being diverted and utilized, it goes waste in Bay of Bengal. On the other hand, Andhra needs this water for kharif crops, right? So this is the first allegation being raised by Andhra Pradesh. Telangana says that they will continue to use this water. Why? Because Andhra Pradesh, on the other hand, is also using Rayalaseema lift irrigation project, right, which it says is not legal and justified. So right now there is a 50% allocation of the resources which is being demanded by Telangana. This is what Telangana is saying. But right now 66, 30, 34, this is the percentage in which water resources being allocated to both the states. This is ad hoc. This is only a temporary basis of a division of water, and the idea is to have a final allocation so that final dispute is resolved between both the states, right? So both the states are trying to use extra water to generate hydroelectric power, right? So Haral Sima region, Andhra is doing, and Telangana is doing at these four places, right? Sri Sai Salam and Jurala, Nagarjuna, and these four projects, right? So this is the allegation by both the states. Now, why is the issue here? Now, the issue is that this Kaleshwaram lift irrigation project, right? Now, this has got the lift irrigation project, and we also have got lift irrigation project at Rayalaseema. Now, lift irrigation project also require a lot of energy to lift water, right? And therefore, some places these projects are not the most efficient, and therefore they are adopting different means to generate electricity, right? And therefore diversion of water is also being done. So this is the reason behind this kind of dispute between both the states, right? So what is the future? What is the course of action way forward for future? Way forward is to have a permanent settlement to ensure that the tribunal awards permanent, not ad hoc basis of division for river water, and therefore after that it is executed by the river board, right? So this is what the conclusion should be like. Okay, what is the image of the day? Now, these are all dead mussels. What is dead mussels? Mussels. Now, these are small bodies. These are shellfishes which are hardened, right? So they have calcium cover over them, and these are organisms, right? These are live organisms which are present at the sea coast area, right? How are they helpful? These organisms are very helpful because they help in filtering the sea. How do they filter the sea? Now, since they filter the sea, they keep the area clean, and therefore sunlight can penetrate below the sea, right, the surface. And because of this, there's a growth of the biota at the seabeds, right? These seashells also help in creating habitats for other organisms. If they are dead, then you can see that this will also not help in cleaning of the water. This will also not help by ensuring that the sunlight goes below the surface level of sea. This will also not help by not having more biota at sea surface and below the sea levels. So this is not good for the ecosystem. And lately, it has something has deteriorated the condition of the mussels. They have died at the Canada coast at Columbia, British Columbia. This is a territory of Canada in the western coast. Why? They have died because the sea surface temperature have risen. Why have they risen? They have risen because of the formation of heat dome conditions. What is a heat dome? We discussed heat dome 3 days back. Heat dome is a condition where heat gets trapped by subsiding high pressure in the region. Now, this is a unique condition which happened at the North America continent, at the west side of it, over Washington state, Seattle, Portland, this region, and the British Columbia region. And because of this, the area has suffered in terms of the high rising temperatures in the region. And this is why these dead mussels have died in the region, right? So this is the update about image of the day. The first term and concept is about Department of Public Enterprise. Earlier, it was a part of Ministry of Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises. This department has now been included in Finance Ministry. Why? It has been included in Finance Ministry to have better control over the expenditure of the public enterprises, to have a revival of some of them, and to ensure closure of them, right? So capital expenditure and their revenue will be controlled in a better manner by the Finance Ministry if they are made a part of this ministry. So now Finance Ministry has 6 departments, including Department of Public Enterprises. What are the previous departments? One is expenditure, of course, revenue, financial services, economic affairs, and investment and public asset management. And this is the 6th organization, right? So this is the update. Good for MCQ, right? India EU meet of agriculture. Now this meet is important for India. Why? Because India associates with any country or any union, they will help India also grow along with them. For example, European Union has got this commitment of farm to fork strategy, and they say that they will bring 25% of area under organic farming by 2030. If they do it themselves and if they partner with India, will India not be able to help itself? grow in organic farming? Yes, it will. So therefore this association is going to help India in multiple ways, right? India has also got this resolution of increasing farmers income, having 10,000 farm producer organizations, right? Agriculture marketing infrastructure. So all this will be helped if India partners with EU, which India is already doing, right? There's also an increased thrust at Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana, which is about organic farming in India. Also, note this particular issue. This is about maximum residual limit of tricyclazole in the production of basmati rice. What is this issue? What is the export issue? The issue is here that we use a certain kind of fungicide, right? This fungicide is used to ensure good productivity of basmati rice in India. Now, basmati rice is also exported to EU. What EU has done, that EU has raised the standards of export, where the fungicide must be below several parameters below the present parameters. So spraying has to get reduced. It will get reduced in due time. But right now, if suddenly you have stopped the export to EU, so India's agriculture will also suffer. So this is the issue. This was also discussed, right? Okay. Pegasus. What is Pegasus? We have heard of this word. This word relates to science and technology, especially computer and information technology. So this is a spyware tool which has been created by Israel. It has also used this spyware tool at multiple places. Now, the idea is, if you click on this link, right, there will be a software which gets installed in the computer or phone, and it will start to survey the whole computer or the device or mobile phone. How? It will ensure that all the data is under its own control, right? It will ensure that the camera, the database, all the motherboard entities, the switching off on and off of computer, any data shared through computer, all the information stored, all the finance data stored, all will be under surveillance, and it can be captured by this particular spyware. Now, the latest version of the spyware is also such that a person does not even need to click on it, right? And all the complete access to data will be there by that person. This is a Israeli born software, and this is why Pegasus is popular. Fourth term and concept in news is human papilloma virus testing. Now, lately it has been allowed that self-collected sample can also be used for HPV testing. What is HPV? Human papilloma virus is the kind of virus which is responsible for cervical cancer, right? Cervical cancer in females. Okay, so this is the most common viral infection of the reproductive tracts, especially in females, right? So this is the thing, and most of the cases the virus issue, it gets resolved by itself. But in case of issues, people can collect the samples from the area, right, from the pelvic examination. And this time the update is that the person can themselves collect the sample, and they can be utilized for examination. And if examined and if found as high risk, further treatment can also be given. That is why in news, human papilloma virus testing, okay, relates to cervical cancer. Okay, next. Now, we have got two important editorials for today. The first one is about pharmaceutical company in India and the Chinese API, Chinese active pharmaceutical ingredients, right? India is world's third largest pharmaceutical industry, only after countries like China, and guess which country? Italy. Yes, these are the two countries ahead of India. This is what the article mentions. Now, India exports a lot of pharmaceutical drugs to America, to Europe, to UK, and then to countries like Africa. In fact, the article mentioned that as much as 25 to 30% of many of the kind of drugs being used in these countries are India made, right? But India is heavily dependent on China as well for API. Now, India is happy in bulk drug production, right? Bulk drugs. That means it produces drugs in a huge quantity and exports to other nations, right? But many of the important ingredients required for production of any drug, for example, we have paracetamol. So paracetamol will need a certain important ingredients to be put in it. Now, they are brought from China. As much as 60 to 70% of APIs, active pharmaceutical ingredients, are brought from China, and then bulk drugs are produced. So India is in a way is dependent on countries like China. And this is where Katoj committee has recommended, remember this word, the Katoj committee, it recommended for self-sufficiency and independence in the drug production for the country, right? Now, The pandemic arrived for India and there was a crisis. Why? Because of supply chain shortcomings and because China suddenly increased the API prices, and therefore all countries, including India, were in a jiffy, right? So there was a crisis first, and later India started its own scheme of promoting the APIs in India, right? So through schemes like PLI schemes, for example, India said that, okay, you produce these drugs in India and we will ensure that we will give you incentives for production. So therefore, PLI, production linked incentive, they produce, they export, and they will be given incentives if there is acceleration in the exports, right? So this is the idea. The main challenges are that India has a lot of regulatory mechanisms which are impeding the growth of this industry. So approval is multi-level, which is creating a challenge for development. Also, we have a national list for essential medicines. Now, this is another headache for pharmaceutical companies. NLEM, National List for Essential Medicines. The medicines here cannot be raised above a certain bar of price, even if the international prices are high, even if the import cost of the pharmaceutical products, APIs, are high. They cannot be raised above a certain bar. So these are challenges for the growth of pharmaceutical industries in India. This is what the article mentions. Now, the second editorial is on India's climate approach. It has been criticized here, and very good recommendations have been given, right? So it says that G7 countries have given the rhetoric of net zero carbon. That means earlier they were talking of reduction in the total emissions, right? Now they're talking of net zero. So the prime difference between both of them is that net zero is trying to hide the total emissions. It is not trying to reduce them. It is trying to hide them by offsetting, by either purchasing from the cleaner producers or ensuring that they also compensate for it. But production is not getting decreased, no? The emission, harmful emission, is not getting decreased. So this is the first point the article mentions. The article says that India also is on the similar lines. India speaks of international solar alliance. India speaks of renewable capacity, but there are issues with it. What are the issues? So it says these are all greenwash. These are only eyewash. They only talk about it. When India is producing 450 gigawatt of energy, clean energy, by 2030. So India's total also is 850 gigawatt. How is the rest of 400 gigawatt being produced? We are also exceeding the coal and the dirty production of energy. So this fossil fuel usage is one. In the article mentions that why is India not stopping and regulating the rampant use of private vehicles? This is one issue. Then the net zero concept, it talks only about the complete offsetting mechanism. It is not talking about reduction of the conventional fuel. The article also mentions, third point, that mega hydel projects are also not net zero. There are a lot of repercussions and issues with the big hydel projects. They do not create as many jobs. They require displacement of people. There are multiple issues with them. There are also questions on renewable energy mega projects. For example, if solar energy installations are being installed at huge land areas, they are not as efficient as compared to the rooftop solar installations. Rooftop solar installations not only generate electricity, they also give more employment. Also, having these renewable solar set up at land areas, they take a lot of land. Also, not only land, but they also divert the land which was used for some other activity. Even for the presence of biotech area, biotech region, the whole landscape is changed because of the adoption of the solar technology at land surfaces at mass scale. Therefore, saying that they are clean and they do not have repercussions, this is not the best way to go forward. So these are the four important points the article talks about and criticizes the mechanisms in which clean energy rhetoric is being spoken about in India. So this is the second article. Now, the case study of the day is a very good one. It is about Odisha, which has worked very hard in the field of child brides, right? Now, we have had this discussion previously in the Gazette video only, around a month back, that there has been an increase in child marriage after the corona pandemic initiated. Why? The reason was that because of pandemic, schools were closed, there were less avenues for employment, the girls stayed back at home, and so the parents thought that it is better to get them married. Also, this age, after 14 years of age and until 18 years of age, getting adult and this compulsory education, this gap, there is a gap period in which the children are free and they do not pursue anything because there is no free education after a certain age. And therefore, this is the time when parents think, especially in the middle and lower income categories, that it is good time to get the girl's child married, and therefore they get them married. And this is responsible for child marriages. Child marriages result in a lot of issues for the girl child and the society at large. How? First of all, their maternal mortality, the rate of maternal mortality is high if a child is married to another person. If the child cannot bear the newborn, therefore this increases the risk for the death of the new mother. This is one issue. Then what about their rights to equality? They do not get gender equal rights. There are issues in marriage, their education, their employment, everything gets affected if they're married at child ages, right? What about holding the rights, the various rights of children? They do not have a good childhood and they are thrown into the adulthood at very early age. So these are the issues, right? So what did Odisha government do here? In the first phase of lockdown, after first phase of corona, there were increase in number of the child marriages. However, the government worked so well in multiple ways. We will just study them in this case study, beautiful case study, that we will understand how they increased the decrease the level of child marriages in this particular state. They made 4,000 Odisha villages free of child marriages. How did they do it? First one, they verified at village and gram panchayat level the level of child marriages happening at places, right? They also generated awareness among the people, like the child marriage prohibition officer, and they ensured that a commitment was taken, undertaking was signed by the child prohibition officer, child marriage prohibition officer and committee, right? And they ensured that marriages in their villages would not happen, right? So these people would indirectly coerce, force the parents of the persons who are marrying the child, the small child. So this is how grassroots involvement helped in reduction of the child marriages in Odisha, right? So this was a bottom up approach through the committed official and committees working at the grassroots level, right? Now, if this is done, how will we help society? All these four issues that I spoke of, they will get exactly reversed. We will ensure the rights of children are upheld. We will ensure that maternal mortality is reduced. We are trying to give new mothers food. We are trying to ensure good health. But how about reducing the number of child marriages? So this will help in this cause. Gender equality will be ensured. Females will be given equal chances at all other places, and education and employment as well. So this beautiful case study tells how India can actually prevent child marriages in the country. So this is a good case study. Please do note it down. Thank you for watching.